Good afternoon. My name is Chief Warrant Officer Phillip Chavez. I'm with the 176 Engineering Company out of the Washington Army National Guard. So we're actually stationed and based out of the Snohomish Armory, which is north of Seattle, Washington. So my hometown, so I'm actually from Red Bluff, California. We relocated up to Bremerton, Washington back in 2012. Oh my gosh. I asked a soldier this the other day and I told him it's a hard question. So I think the highlight for me is seeing the soldiers, and when the finished product is done and they get out and get pictures and they actually sat back and pat each other on the back and says, we did this. So that's the best part for me. So my experiences in Thailand, I'm not so sure I can articulate in the words because it's so outstanding. I have a word I use called fantabulous. But you know, the people, the generosity. You know, we've got a lady and her husband that behind me over across the street. He has a motorcycle shop, so he is in a wheelchair. He doesn't get around, but when he gets down to work on the bikes and whatever he's working on, he gets on his little scooter, his stroller, and pushes himself around. His wife on the next shop over, she actually does a bakery business. So there are times where we'd find baskets sitting on the wall behind us. And she would have biscuits and donuts and Thai foods just for us. You know, and we'd go across the street and talk to people. There was an event in the temple a couple weeks ago, and we're sitting there watching boxing matches that they had on. And two Thai individual civilians looked over and says, "You Americans, Cobra Gold, Cobra Gold." So Cobra Gold is big. Even the civilians know about it. But the people are great. I can't say enough about them. Being the OSC of a project like this is challenging, but rewarding. But what we have to remember is that even though we're doing the paperwork and whatnot, the kudos and all the backslapping goes to the soldiers. They're the ones that do the projects. They're the ones that do the blood, sweat, and tears. So my hat's off to my troops. So today was the culmination of a 5.5-week exercise. Out of 7 sites throughout the HCA Humanitarian Civic Activity, they only picked one DV, a Distinguished Visitor Site. This is the Distinguished Visitor Site. So with all the pompous circumstances you see around you, we actually had a 4-star Thai general come in. We had a lieutenant general from the Marines. And so what they've done is that they come in and they basically, so we build the building and we have to give the building over to the governor, and the governor then gives it over to the school. So it's a pretty big ceremony when they have these. So I was chosen as the officer in charge. So my job entailed the planning, the scheduling, the coordinations, along with meeting people and getting to know people so that we can interact both with the military, U.S., Singapore, and also with the Thai community. So my first time at Cobra Gold was this time last year. So our unit actually splits up the exercise into 2 chalks, each 2.5 weeks long. So last year I was on the 2nd chalk, so I was able to see this portion of the event, although not to this level. So the planning stages, there are 2 2-week episodes. You got the initial planning conference and the final planning conference. Those are dealt in July, August, and then October, November. So once we get all that dialed in and figure out our bill of materials, start getting contracts out, as the OIC, I get with my NCOIC and we start going over the BOM list and figuring out what materials we need. But that's actually, there's a difficulty level in that. But the difficulty level is when our soldiers do boots on ground. So when they get in, we've got a couple of days before our Connex got here. So we were actually working with either no tools or what the Thais could give us. But getting into that, we had to get excavators, we had dozers, dump trucks, the whole gamut. And the planning stages, because you only got 34 days from start to finish, you've really got to stay on track and not miss any of your critical dates. So in my opinion, the reason we do multilateral exercises with Thailand and other countries, in fact, is both to strengthen our relationships, both militarily, socially, and economically. If we don't sit down at the table and play a couple games of cards or in this case, build a building, those episodes will never happen. So it's really important that we continue these in the future.